What you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? I done it all, just want it all. Oh, what you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me?
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Title, episode 179. Y'all, damn, we talk a lot. Woo, we do this thing. I love it, man. It's my favorite day of the week. You guys know, welcome to another episode, More Than a Title. I'm your host as usual, Jarrett, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital. And you know, I got my brother, my brethren, your favorite CEO, Chadeo. What's good, baby?
That's why I always carry the chapstick. I got about 1,700,000 chapsticks in all flavors and colors because we talk too goddamn much. Lips be a little bit parched. I got the Burt's Bees.
Shout out to the sponsors.
I got flavors. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with yet another phenomenal episode. Yes, phenomenal of the More Than the Title show. Yes, because we got I'm talking, look, and we always hype our guests up, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, you know, back in the day, they would say, get your tape decks ready. Get your tape decks ready, right? Get your record button ready. But I promise you guys, you're not going to want to miss this episode. Our guest is just truly phenomenal. She's going to come on here and drop some gems. And if y'all pay attention, I guarantee you it's going to change your life. So with that said, you know how we like to start the show, G&T. First of all, we're grateful and thankful to our guests for coming on the show because once again, everybody can't get her. Everybody can't get her. You might not be able to get on your show. So we're grateful and thankful for our guests for coming on and allowing us to tell her story and cultivate her message the way that she wants her story told. And she has the faith that we will do it exactly in the way that she wants her voice to be heard. And we're thankful once again for all of our listeners, the new listeners. Oh man, so many new listeners, so many new subscribers. We appreciate you guys and the continual support from the community. We're growing and glowing, like my cousin likes to say, and that's why we like to start off the show that way. We appreciate y'all, G&T, baby. Grateful and thankful.
And before we begin, y'all definitely want to shout out. I want to dedicate this episode to my grandmother. Yes. Happy birthday, Grandma Marie Reyes. She's the matriarch of the family, 85 years old today.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Grandma. You know what it is.
Coming over later tonight, we're going two-step, Grandma. You know, I'm going to have a sip and two-step with you, but I just want to let you know I love you, Grandma. This episode is dedicated to you.
Yes.
I am because of the person that you are and everything that you sacrifice for our family. And that's what makes, you know, just everything we do possible. So just thank you for being you, Grandma. We love you, and we'll see you tonight. And this is for you, baby, you know, for the family.
I ain't going to lie. I like that shirt you had on, too, because that Armani shirt kind of nice, man.
Oh, I'm a little big now. That's pre-pandemic, Cindy.
I know we don't have too much of the same clothes, but I don't know, man. You might catch me in one of those, and I like that. That's a clean look right there.
So let's get it going, man. We're going first of all, we're dedicating it for one strong woman. We're going to actually have an episode with another strong woman, and with that, so let's give her the proper introduction.
Let's start the show.
Let's get it, y'all. So let's give her the right intro that she deserves, man.
Yes.
She's, first of all, she's a force in nature, an industry disruptor, an innovator, and a fearless advocate for change. She's a powerhouse in advertising, marketing, and brand building with over 30 years of experience shaping the industry. She founded and led the U.S. office of Bartle, Bogle, and Hegarty, earning the title of Advertising Woman of the Year. But not only there, she just doesn't break barriers, she blows them up. As the founder of If We Ran the World, she's redefining business through shared values and shared action, and is the visionary behind Make Love Not Porn. She's leading in charge in social sextech, normalizing open conversations about sex and relationships. She's been named one of the 15 most important marketing strategy thinkers today by Business Insider, ranked alongside Malcolm Gladwell and Seth Godin. You've seen her on the TEDx stage, y'all. You've seen her in the boardrooms. You've seen her on Forbes. You've seen her at Con. You've seen her at Black Week. And now for the very first time, she's on your favorite podcast, More Than a Title. Let's introduce our girl, Miss Cindy Gallop, y'all.
Wow.
Woo! 15 most important marketing strategies.
Wow.
Advertising Women of the Year.
Wow.
Woo!
All I can say is wow, Cindy. Just wow.
Woo! And shout out to Walt and everybody on the check-in on Instagram. We can't have the Instagram, but Walt's here. Shout out to Uncle Lewis Williams. Shout out to everybody out there.
Yeah.
So Cindy, usually we like to start. First of all, it's an honor, and I'll set it off camera. I'll say it on camera now. The first time I came across your profile was on LinkedIn. Her tagline, y'all, is "I'm the Michael Bay of business. I like to blow shit up." I said, "Oh. I said, "Oh." I said, "Oh, let me follow her." And I still got the DM. And so, following you over the years, seeing what you're doing, it's an honor to have you on the show. I'm honored to learn more about you. And usually how we like to start, Cindy, we just like to start from the beginning. So tell us about your background, growing up, some of your early influences, and then we'll get into the business.
Sure. So I'm half English, half Malaysian Chinese. My father was English. He died a few years ago. My mother is Malaysian Chinese. Wow. And I was born in the UK, but when I was 6, we moved to Brunei in Borneo, where my father had got a job. And so I grew up in Brunei in Asia, went back to the UK for school and university. I read English at Oxford University at Somerville College. And that was where I fell madly in love with theatre, because Oxford has a very thriving student drama scene. And so I was president of my college drama society. I wrote, acted, directed, stage managed, etc., did everything, and decided that all I wanted to do was work in theatre for the rest of my life. But I knew I wasn't good enough to be an actress or a director, like a lot of my friends wanted to be. But I used to draw a lot when I was younger. And my friends at Oxford pulled me into designing theatre posters for their shows. And from there, I kind of got pulled into helping promote their shows, and I really enjoyed doing that. So I became a marketing and publicity officer in theatre. I worked for a number of theatres in the UK for several years until I got completely fed up with working 24/7 and earning chicken feed, which is what working in the theatre is. I was the marketing officer at the Everman Theatre in Liverpool. And part of my job promoting the theatre was giving talks about it. So I gave a talk to a group of women in Liverpool. And afterwards, one of them came up to me and she said, "Young lady, you could sell a fridge to an Eskimo." And I went, "That is the universe telling me something. Time to sell out, go into advertising." And so I did.
Sell out, go. But women, I almost stopped you before I was on mute. So thank God I was on mute. Okay, sorry, thank God. But so what made you think that you weren't good enough to stay in the theater, though? What was something that made you stood out? You said you just wasn't good enough to do the acting in the theater.
No, it wasn't that I wasn't good enough. I was very good at it. But I was just completely fed up with working every hour God gave me and earning nothing.
Right.
Earning an absolute pittance. And actually, so, when I left theatre and went into advertising, this was 1985. I joined an agency called Ted Bates in London, which no longer exists. It was, absorbed long ago. And I actually took a drop in salary because I started as an entry-level account exec. But I very quickly, made that up and overtook my old salary and absolutely began earning a great deal more than I ever would have in theatre. So that was a primary motivation.
Yeah, but I would like to think that you designing, and I know you might not have been thinking about it in the moment, but think about it now. Hindsight's always 20/20. Say you're doing marketing and advertising, you doing theater posters is marketing and advertising, right? Because you're designing something to let people know, because remember, you design something, right? You have to kind of sell the entire show in 1 or 2 images, right? Get a person, it's like a hook line. It's like, you got to see this poster, you got to see this thing, and you got to want to come. So do you think, looking back at it, that was a great prerequisite to kind of get you in the rhythm, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, being a marketing officer in theatre, I found that my skills were eminently transferable.
Yes.
Because advertising is a very theatrical profession.
Yes.
So, my early years in theatre absolutely equipped me for a lot of what we do in advertising.
I love your accent. I want to.
I don't want to say nothing about it. When we met her, it's just something about that accent that I just love. I just love it. I don't know when it's like so debonair, so demure. Like it's so debonair. Like I ain't gonna lie, like Cindy, when you talk like that, it's like even if you're not important, it just makes you sound really important. I know what I'm talking about. Just listen to me. Just did I speak? Like
into my seat and shit. But you did say something that was really cool. It started off from you going from the entry level of an advertising agency to being the advertising woman of the year, right? So what gems would you give to any professionals listening right now, especially women, right, to climb through the ranks? What is some advice that you would give them?
Right. So first of all, what is interesting is when I went into advertising in London in 1985. There were, and I don't know whether this still goes on in the UK. I suspect it doesn't. But basically, all the big agencies had very, very thorough entry-level training schemes, and people came in at entry level as account managers or planners. But basically, what we did was we spent 6 months working in every single department in the agency. So, we worked in production, we worked in creative, we worked in planning, we worked in traffic, we worked in print production, et cetera. And so we literally were trained by understanding exactly how everything in an advertising agency works through every single step of the process, every single department. And that was a fantastic grounding. And also, we were put on accounts from day one. So while we're learning all this, we were also, absolutely, by the way, making coffee, writing contact reports, etc. But we were doing on the job, and we were learning about every single aspect of it. So that was a terrific grounding. Now, what I will say, and just briefly about how my career progressed, I spent a couple of years at Ted Bates. I worked on DHL, the couriers, and I worked on Mars Confectionery. I worked on Snickers and various other, chocolate products. Then Saatchi and Saatchi back in the day bought Bates. And I was offered a job at Saatchi's, but Saatchi operate on a kind of group system. And I was and your experience in the agency very much depended on who headed your group. So I was interviewed by the group head, whose group the DHL account was going into, which is why they wanted me on it. And, I cannot recall this man's name to this day, but I just did not like him one bit. And I thought to myself in that interview, I don't want to work for you. So I actually went to J. Walter Thompson, again, back in the days when JWT existed, worked there. I went on to an agency called Gold Greenleaf's Trot, GGT, which again no longer exists. And after a couple of years there, I fetched up at BBH, where I then proceeded to spend the next 16 years. But what I'm going to say in answer to your question, Jarrett, is my so-called successful advertising career was entirely down to luck. I was very, very lucky. I was lucky on two fronts. Okay. Wow. First of all, I was lucky because I was never sexually harassed in a way that ended my career. And by the way, I was absolutely sexually harassed, but not as is the experience of so many women in our industry, where retaliation happens, you're managed out of the agency, out of the industry, and that is pure luck. I could have had a far worse experience, pure luck. And the second reason I was lucky was I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of female bosses I had in my entire career, 2. I virtually always worked for men, but I was lucky enough to work for men in every agency I worked in who saw my potential before I did, wanted me to succeed, actively championed me, and gave me every opportunity to do so. And so, making it from, nervous little entry-level graduate trainee baby account exec at Ted Bates in London in 1985, all the way to Advertising Woman of the Year in New York in 2003 was entirely down to luck.
You on mute, Cuzzo?
No, that was super real. I was
Yeah.
like, so I'm trying to think of how do we.
I know what I want to. I know before she gets past it.
Yeah.
Before she gets past it, I feel like we have to touch on the sexual harassment thing, and I don't want to dive too deep into it, Cindy. But too many women, doesn't matter your color, your ethnicity, that doesn't matter. A woman, right? Too many women experience exactly what you just said, right? But they experience it to the latter, where they end up getting pushed out and things of that nature, right?
Yep.
You being a young woman, right? A very young woman, right? And obviously the first time that it happens, can you just walk us through the mindset that you had? Because you could have easily walked out the door yourself. You could have easily said, I don't want to work in this environment. And if this is the environment that I'm going to be in and you're going to put me in, then I'm going to remove myself from the situation. Can you just walk us through, kind of what you felt and what you did to kind of get past it, to help you move further in your career?
Sure. So here's the really important thing, guys.
Right.
I'm regularly asked in interviews about my career. So Cindy, what sexism did you encounter coming up through the ranks in advertising? And my response is always, a fish does not know what water is. Sexism was all around me as a young woman coming up through the ranks in the 80s, 90s in advertising in London. And I did not notice it because it was just the way things were. And so basically, this was just the way things were. When my drunken client in the back of a taxi tried to force my head down to his lap to give him a blowjob,
Wow.
I laughed. I went, ha ha ha, pushed him away. And by the way, this was a client that I had a very good relationship with. He was a young guy. He was very drunk, and so I did not think a great deal of it at the time. I went, he's drunk, ha ha ha, pushed him off, and literally thought no more about it because those were the times. And that is not good at all, but those were the times. I remember things now, literally, I remember sitting in a bar with two of my male bosses and our assistant, who was a lovely young woman called Jo, and there were jokes and whatever, and I do remember this vividly because even at the time, I thought that's not good, and they were going blah blah, we could gangbang Jo, and Jo laughs nervously, and again, those were the times. This shit was going on. You don't even think about protesting, but as I say, that moment stuck in my mind because even when I was living all of this, I thought that's not great.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I definitely know. I could only imagine then. When I got it, it was still kind of like that, but not like, you know what I'm saying? Not that.
But guys, it is as bad as this today. Mm-hmm. Okay, literally, this is going on all around us in our industry as we speak tonight, and I hear about it from women all the time. Okay, so nothing's changed on this front.
Wow.
What could we do to shed more light on it, right? Because at the end of the day, there's still that fear of being blackballed, losing your career, losing out everything that you worked so hard for. So how can we use this platform right now? What are some things that we can do to try to shed some light on it?
Sure. So I've been saying this for many years. There are two very simple ways to end sexual harassment in any industry. Mm-hmm. The first is sexual harassment magically disappears in any environment, workplace environment, that is 50-50 male, female, or ideally more female than male. And that's because in a gender equal working environment, first of all, there isn't the implicit male dominated bro culture all around you that says it's okay to behave like that.
Yeah.
And secondly, when men are working every day in a gender equal, or ideally, again, I go more female dominated male environment, they are surrounded every day by brilliant women who are providing their insights, their contributions, their thinking to the work you do together. And that is when men cease to see women as one of only two things, girlfriend or secretary. So that's solution number one. But that requires every company in our business to ensure a gender equal workplace at every single level of the company. Ain't never going to happen, okay, in a male-dominated industry. And the second way you end sexual harassment, and again, I've been saying this to industry leaders for years, is you welcome sex into the office. And what I mean by that is, we currently have a culture that says you don't talk about sex in the office. Well, you need to talk about sex in the office. And what I mean by that is, I say to our industry leaders and every other industry leaders, you need to make a stipulation that you operate good sexual values in the workplace in exactly the same way you talk about all the other good corporate values that you operate. So, you know, you need to add good sexual values and good sexual behavior to your corporate values mission statement.
Absolutely.
You need to make it part of your employee onboarding handbook. You need to state that publicly at every town hall or all employee meeting. You know, it's only by saying overtly, our expectation is that our company culture is about good sexual values and good sexual behavior. That's when you end sexual harassment. And by the way, that ain't happening either, because the men at the top are doing it.
Wow.
That's real.
I just want to say something, Cindy. I don't know, Cindy, because I done been in a couple jobs where it was a bunch of females and I felt objectified, cousin. You know what I'm saying? I walk in and I have objectifying me.
So let me tell you an anecdote that's related to that.
Right.
So years ago, I was at an industry dinner party.
Right.
With a lot of my friends who were all, you know, senior people in various agencies. And one of the women around the table was talking about a pitch that she just worked on at their agency. And she said, you know, the senior client walked into the pitch and he was an extremely attractive older man. And so she nudged her plan and went, "Cool, I'd do him." Okay. So we all laughed. Okay. But a little while later, the friend sitting next to me, who was a senior man at an agency, he said to me, if I had said what she just said about a female client, he would have laughed. And I said to him, that's because it's about power. And the power in our industry is massively imbalanced in favor of the men. Method. And by the way, this is why I gave a talk at the 3% conference back in, I think this is 2019. And by the way, I recommend to our listeners that you find this talk on YouTube. It's only 30 minutes, and I recommend you watch it because the talk is titled "The Future for White Men in Advertising." Okay. And when I gave that talk, I said at the beginning, everybody else was not a white man in advertising. Terribly sorry, I'm not talking to you. This is an overheard conversation. By all means, listen. But I am talking to the white men in the room at the 3% conference and everyone on the live stream. And I then proceeded to provide 7 reasons why the future for white men in advertising is wonderful for them when they welcome in the rest of us. And my first point in this talk is I said, you'll be able to make jokes about sex in the office. In a diverse, gender equal environment where power is equally distributed amongst everybody, men can make jokes about sex in the office, women can make jokes about sex in the office, and we'll all laugh. It's about power and the balance of power and the imbalance of power.
You're on mute, cousin. Yeah.
I've been speechless most times on this show.
Because it boggles me. It boggles me.
Seriously,
it boggles me.
Think about it.
Yeah. So what's your take then? Really quickly on, now I'm going to look at it as just checking of the box. Every company that I've worked for, especially as a senior manager, you are required to take sexual harassment training every single year. My problem with it is this: it's the same exact training every single year. Nothing gets updated, nothing gets evolved. And to me, right, yes, it's a part of your onboarding and things of that nature. But I think it's just like put there to say, oh, at least we did this, right? Because if there is no balance, and we understand that, and we have the sexual harassment training in place, and HR is not going to back you up if you make a claim, then the question now turns out to like, do you accept it or do you leave, right? Because now it becomes an environment where it seems like it's a no-win situation.
But depending on what kind of job, what kind of infrastructure the company has,
Right.
HR is not really HR, right? I know many women who I know that are working in corporate jobs, they can't feel like they go to HR because HR is directly talking to the CEO of the company, right? They're all HR want to keep their job. Right. So next thing you know, you're getting a meeting at 5 o'clock on a Friday, and no, your job is in jeopardy. And that's how it is. So at the end of the day, I've seen crazy things on deals. Right. I've seen us go to close a deal and Joe Blow does some blow. The senior manager sees it. And then as long as we close the deal, all is fine. But would I be able to do that shit?
Right.
Hell no.
Right.
So, you know, I especially know what goes on because back in October 2017, as you may recall, you know, the New York Times finally exposed Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
And a ton of brave women, you know, went on the record and talked about their experiences. And, you know, I'd been speaking out about sexual harassment in the advertising industry for many years before Me Too. And I spoke out about it because nobody else was. And, you know, because I spoke out about it, I've been hearing from women for years, you know, about appalling things going on.
Yeah.
And I would try and encourage them to tell their stories, and they were always too frightened to. So when the Harvey Weinstein expose happened, I thought maybe now, with this example in front of them, people will speak up. So I posted on Facebook, and by the way, this, you know, this is 2017. This is back in the day when Facebook actually was a powerful force in terms of spreading things. You know, no longer. And I just said, and I didn't think a great deal about it. You know, I went, women of the advertising industry, the time has come to name the Harvey Weinsteins of our industry. You know, the time has come to name names. So, you know, please email me. Here's my email address, and I will connect you with trusted journalists in our industry who will tell your stories. And I posted that just thinking, I'm going to put this call out. And an avalanche hit my inbox and carried on hitting my inbox for the next few months. And that avalanche came from all around the world. You know, not just our industry in the US, but, you know, advertising in the UK and France, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia, in Australia, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just gobsmacked at what turned up my inbox. In fact, I was so gobsmacked that year, you know, I was speaking at the 3% conference because I keynoted that every year for the 10 years that it continued. And I was due to speak in a few weeks' time. And at the last minute, I completely rewrote the front half of my speech to talk about what had shown up in my inbox. And by the way, I recommend to our listeners that they find that talk. It's on YouTube. It's from the 3% Conference 2017. If you search Cindy Gallop, Where the Money Is, it has the wrong title for the topic because that was the original title. Watch the first 15 minutes of that talk, where I talked to the audience about what I'd uncovered. And I said to the audience, I always knew it was bad. I never knew it was this bad. And I am horrified, appalled, and disgusted at a number of things. I said, I'm horrified, appalled, and disgusted at the fact that our industry contains serial rapists who have never been brought to justice. I'm horrified at the fact that I'm hearing from women who were sexually harassed and raped 35 years ago, and 20-something women who can't believe the industry they've just joined. I said, I am horrified, appalled, and disgusted at, to your point, HR departments that are not worthy of the name, that did not support the victims, the survivors. I said, I am horrified and appalled at the names. And by the way, obviously I didn't, and I never have revealed any of the names, but I said, these are men who have sat across from me, looked me in the eye and told me how much they support women. These are men whom I considered my friends. These are men I thought were good guys, and they're doing this shit. Okay? And so, I said to the audience, and I promise you, you know, together we're going to bring these men to justice. Then what happened was, I reached out to our industry trade press around the world. You know, I talked with Ad Age here in the US, Campaign in the UK, Ad News in Australia, Campaign Asia, and Mumbrella in Asia, because I spoke to the editorial leadership teams of each of those publications. I said, I have stories that I want to connect you with, that I want you to tell, but I need to know two things before I do that. I said, number one, I want to know that you commit to doing a thorough and investigative journalism job on these stories as the New York Times did with Harvey Weinstein. And number two, I want you to commit to me that when giant holding company X comes down on you like a ton of bricks, you will not fold. And in all cases, they committed to that. But then the challenges were, first of all, you know, a lot of these women did not want to go on the record. Okay, and by the way, for many of them, it was cathartic enough to have told me their stories, but they were so what I did, by the way, to try and combat that was I cross-referenced, because from my position, I was able to say, you think you're the only person this happened to? I can tell you 3 other women have named the same guy to me. You know, can I put you together as a group? So I tried that. People were, as you say, quite, and by the way, here's something very important as well. I heard not just from women, but I heard from men. I heard from men in our industry who are sexually harassed by gay men in senior positions in our industry, because that absolutely goes on as well. And I also, I shall come on to this point. But again, they were too terrified to speak up, because the powerful men doing the harassing gatekeep everything. They're the gatekeepers of jobs, promotions, awards, trips to Cannes Lions. You know. So I went, okay, I'm going to have to adopt a few more tactics to make people feel able to speak up. So first of all, I put a call out to our industry, and I said I want holding companies and agencies to commit to the fact that if anybody whistleblows in this context, Me Too, they will commit to interviewing and potentially hiring them, because whistleblowers are the heroes of our industry. These are the people willing to stand up for what is right. And I got a number of my friends who ran smaller agencies to publicly pledge that, but I couldn't get any of the big holding companies or agencies to. You know, again, these are the ones where the leadership are the ones doing the harassing. So I went, right, okay, the second thing I'm going to do is, this isn't working. I went, right, I'm going to guilt the fuck out of the men. So I put a call out to men of the advertising industry. And again, the trade press are very helpful in they covered all of this, you know, that they put stories out. I went, men of the advertising industry who stood by, watched, spectated, laughed, did nothing, joined in. This is your chance to look yourself in the eye in the mirror each morning. Speak up. You know, you can now speak up on behalf of your female colleagues. Tell us what you witnessed. Guilting the men worked. I heard from a number of men who had absolutely borne witness to rapes, to sexual assault, but they were too terrified to speak up as well. Okay. And in some areas of the world, you know, they insist on using encrypted apps. They were literally terrified that their lives could be in danger if they spoke up about the powerful men industry doing this.
Wow.
And, you know, also something else to bear in mind is the flip side of sexual harassment is often bullying and abuse. The powerful men sexually harassing the fuck out of women are bullying and abusing men. Okay. And so I heard from a ton of men who had been bullied by these powerful men, who had PTSD about it in the same way the women who'd been raped and sexually assaulted were. But equally, they couldn't bring themselves to speak up, because to admit that a man could destroy you mentally like this is to go against our societal construct of masculinity. Men are not meant to be able to be destroyed like that mentally by other men. you know. And to give you just one example of, you know, one of the stories I heard, you know, a man reached out to me who was a creative in a creative department, and the ECD was, you know, this very powerful man, and he had his acolytes around him who were all the male creatives. And again, we're talking like an entirely male creative department, because that's what these guys built up, who were all like fanboys. And they were all, you know, broy and single, and they all like, you know, harassed women and et cetera, et cetera. So this particular man had joined this creative department as a copywriter. And he said that one day the ECD came into his office where this copywriter had a photograph of his wife and kid on the desk. And the ECD picked up this photo, looked at it, said to him, well, you won't last long here, put it down and left.
Wow.
As in, I only want my guys, and I don't want somebody with a family and kids who might want to do the right thing. Yeah. So guilting the men meant they absolutely came forward to me, but they didn't feel able to speak up either. So the third tactic I tried was, because, you know, I was horrified at the number of NDAs. You know, I mean, there is one man in our industry, a serial rapist. And by the way, when he finally had, and, you know, this was what somebody told me, there were 8 separate NDA and settlements and SUNS agreements related to this guy. And when that eventually got too much for the very large agency brand he worked at, they shipped him off to another region. That happens a lot. Global transfers. Yeah, and I hate to think what happened subsequently in that to the women of his office in that region, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I said to the audience at 3% conference, I'm horrified at the number of NDAs. And so the third tactic I tried was, I said to the women of the industry, you can break an NDA. Because a number of the Harvey Weinstein accusers broke their NDAs to speak up when they knew other women were as well. And, you know, I said, there's another option. You may have signed an NDA, your friends didn't, your partner didn't, your parents didn't, the people around you didn't. Yep. They could speak up on your behalf because they are not bound by an NDA. Anyway, none of this achieved the result I wanted. And part of the reason too was, I have to say, I want to give full credit to the reporters around the world at each of those regional trade publications. They were all women. They all really wanted to break these stories, but they were stymied by the fact that, you know, industry media in our industry suffers as much as the industry does. They have no budgets, they have no resources. You know, the New York Times can afford to sling a shit ton of money, tons of researchers, tons of reporting power at something like the Harvey Weinstein expose. You know, our industry trade publications can't. You know, these women had to do their day jobs as well. And it was just too difficult. And so a year later, I took the stage at the 3% conference 2018. And I said to the audience, a year ago, I stood here and I told you that I would bring these men to justice. And I said, I'm here to tell you a year later that I've spectacularly failed. But I said, I want you to know, powerful men who think you've gotten away with it, you haven't, because I'm not giving up. Powerful women who enable those powerful men, you haven't gone away with it either. Because, by the way, there are a shit ton of those. There are a shit ton of women signing those NDAs, covering up for the senior men in their company. And I know who those women are as well. And by the way, I've been equally horrified to learn who those women were. And I went, you haven't gone away with it either, because I'm not giving up. And I can tell you that from that day to this, I've tried everything to get these stories broken. I tried publications beyond our industries. I've tried everything. I've not been able to. This shit is still going down around us every fucking day. And by the way, some of it breaks through. You know, there were the very brave young women who spoke up about the man who sexually harassed them at Cannes Lions. And he then attempted to sue the fuck out of them, silenced them. And by the way, you know, what I've also said to women all these years is, when enough of you come forward, no one can sue you for anything. Because when you tell the truth, there's no way anyone can come after you with any legal measures. But I'm here to tell you that we are in 2025, and I can tell you things are just as bad as they've always been.
I'm speech. First of all, thank you.
Because I'm speechless twice.
Yeah, twice. No,
Twice.
because this is the first time we
Yeah.
spoke about this on the show, but it's something
Yeah.
that is prevalent that needs to be
Yes.
talked about. We've
Yes.
never had the topic come up, right?
Yes.
And so for you to be somebody that you're the advertising woman of the year, to get on stage and say, look, I'm gonna make sure I bring these people to justice, right? Try these avenues, created a safe space for these people, and it's still nobody willing to listen because once again, it's capitalist society, it's the money. And
here's the tragedy, guys, okay, because and I said this at the 3% conference as well. When I took the stage in 2017, I said, the past few weeks have made me change my own perspective. Because historically, I've been saying for years, the single biggest business issue facing our industry is diversity. I said, actually, it's not. The single biggest business issue facing our industry is sexual harassment, because sexual harassment manages out of the industry the female leaders who would make diversity happen. And that is the tragedy. Our industry has hemorrhaged so much female creativity, talent, and skills because sexual harassment derails women's careers. Sexual harassment destroys women's career paths. Sexual harassment crushes women's dreams, and it manages them out of the industry for good. I left the agency and I left the industry.
That was going to be my question before you said, I'm glad you said that. Is that what made you leave and made you just like, just something that you're great at, right? And it made you just got so sick of seeing the same people. And how could you, right? It's like it's like taking the red pill in the Matrix, right? Now I see who you are. All this shit is a facade. How can I just sit there and do business with you like nothing's happening? How can you do that? So it's like,
It takes courage though, Cuzzo. We have to give Cindy
absolutely all the flowers
because in the position that she was in, she could have been very selfish and said, well, I'm good, right? It happened to me, right? It happened to me. I overcame it. You overcome it if it's worth it to you. But she said, no, like the buck stops here. Technically, she could have jeopardized her own trajectory, right? And her path to success by being at the forefront as a leader. Once again, as a leader saying, no, I'm going to be vocal. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to pawn it off on somebody else because this is important to me. So, Cindy,
doing what's right.
Yeah, man. Like it's not a lot of people out there like that, Cindy.
I'm pretty sure some of those people that they were mentioned, you probably knew for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? You got great relationships.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's that. I don't care. And that's what we champion all the time, right, Cuzzo? We don't care who you are. We don't care your title. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. If you do the wrong shit, we're going to call you out on it. And that's why we like this. That's why we're the black sheep of this shit.
Because Cindy, because what people don't understand, it's in addition to what you just said, right? We talk about all the time the mindset of being a worker, right? Being a worker, going to work. And we just talked about it last episode, right? When you are going to work and you're not saying I work for this company, you're saying we, this is our company, right? You're putting your all into the company, right? And then something like this happens. Now it jades you. It jades you, right? Not only for that company, but for now future work, because now when you walk into other companies, your guard is up so much that you can almost self-sabotage yourself, because now any little thing that kind of triggers you to what you just went to and through in the other company, you're going to react to.
But do you know, here's the enormously sad thing.
Right.
So many of those men doing the harassing are men that these women enormously looked up to because they were leaders in our industry. So, I remember what one woman told me, and this happened a long time ago. She was working in an agency where the names above the door were like legendary. And she was the only woman in the creative department. And she was a young woman at the time. And she said, she was in a creative department meeting with one of these legendary creative names above the door. And he looked at her and he said, you really need to get fucked. Now, and I told this anecdote on stage, and I said, men, when you do that to us in our industry, within an audience of our peers, you completely dehumanize us, you sexualize and objectify us, you guarantee nobody around us will ever look at us in the same way again, and you completely destroy our career. Okay, and she worshipped this guy as a creative god, and he fucking did that. A more recent example, interestingly, so this was actually in 2017 as well, at the 3% conference. Kat Gordon, the organizer, had a panel of mothers working in the industry and their daughters, talking about what it was like in the industry and talking about whether they would welcome their daughters entering it. And by the way, the daughters on stage ranged in age from like 12 to 18. Okay, they were young. And this woman, wonderful creative director, and funnily enough, much more prominent today, Kirsten Emhoff, who is the first wife of Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, the recent second gentleman. Anyway, Kirsten Emhoff told this story of how she was at Cannes Lions, and she went with a bunch of creatives that she worked with to this big party where there was, again, this very well-known male creative luminary in our industry, and she was so excited to meet him. And so, her colleagues took her up to him and introduced her to him. And he looked at her and he said, funny, I thought the first time I met you, you'd have your legs behind your ears.
Damn!
And Kirsten said she was so not expecting that. She didn't even understand what it meant. She was kind of going, how would I do that?
How do you react? Yeah, like
you bloody believe it. She goes up to this man that she considers a creative legend of our industry, excited to meet him, and that's how he greets her.
I'm looking at the comments right now. They're agreeing with you, Cindy. I'm looking at the comments. They said Khan in 2024 was awful. Money and Power said this year we are leaving by the bunches. Happy hours, client trips, conferences, we all leave together. And he said, yes, she had the same thing. A mentor, a sponsor turned predator.
Yeah.
Wow. And I got to ask you the flip side of the coin too. So like, because your courageousness, right? You leave the industry, you start your own thing. Did you receive any backlash from those type of gentlemen that knew that you was on the path that you was on? Did you see any of that happen on your end? Like now you got your own business. Like, did you hear like, hey, don't work with Cindy or don't do anything? Did you experience that for being courageous?
Well, I'm sure there are people saying that. I don't hear any of it, so it doesn't bother me.
Beautiful.
What was ridiculous was, and people who've been in the industry for a while may recall this, with the explosion of Me Too, there was an anonymous Instagram account started called Diet Madison Avenue, which was the advertising industry take on an existing, very well-known Instagram account, Diet Prada, which exposes the fashion industry. And Diet Madison Avenue basically posted a ton of stories and named names about, men in our industry. And I heard from friends, a lot of men in our industry thought I was behind it, and they were so wrong. I would never, ever, ever do anything like that. That's totally not my style. But, the word was going around amongst, the men who were targets that Cindy Gallop was behind that, and that was absolute bullshit.
Wow. Speechless again, because this is one of those conversations that's real.
See, Cindy, we just got to thank you once again for just being so open and honest and willing to share this part of your journey, right? This is why we created this platform, right? You have to understand that our community, anybody that listens to this, they need to know all of the levels of success, right?
Absolutely.
Too many times, way too many times, people are misled and they think that, you go from zero to success, and they don't see the struggle, which means that they are unprepared to handle these type of instances, these type of obstacles. And when they're presented to them, they don't know what to do, right? They don't have the resources lined up. They don't know who to talk to, right? They don't have the tools necessary to deal with them, right? So it's so important that you get on these platforms. And yes, we can talk about the successes, but it's also equally important that we talk about what comes with climbing the ladder, the environment that you're placed in, how to deal with it, right? If there's support systems and what type of resources are available if you feel like you're a victim of one of these incidents, right? Because these women and men who are victim of these circumstances need to know that you are not alone, right? And there is help out there for you.
Absolutely. And this is why I've been saying for years, you know, and I want to say to our listeners, you know, if you are sexually harassed, speak up about it immediately.
Absolutely.
You may think that your career is ruined if you do. I'm here to tell you your career is ruined if you don't, because it'll be ruined anyway.
Message.
Yeah.
So absolutely speak up. Also, by the way, always trust your instincts. You know, he may be your boss. If it's feeling creepy, it's creepy. Trust me. We know when something's creepy and we know when something isn't. And, you know, absolutely don't worry about being in a situation where it might be awkward if you leave. Just leave. Get the fuck out. You know, and equally, and I want to say this to the men listening, men, open your eyes to the fact that this shit is going down all around you. Okay, because you know you need to be alert to the fact that if a woman, you know, in the group is shifting uncomfortably and some guy seems to be like very insistently bearing in on her private space, yep, it's exactly what it looks like. Go over, rescue her. You know, we absolutely need rescuing in this scenario. We need men to step in and stop this shit happening. So speak up. You know, remove yourself from the situation and then put it in writing. And absolutely report it to HR and CC every bloody leader at the agency on that.
Documentation.
Make it a matter of public record.
Documentation.
Yeah.
Have to. And I'm just thinking of, as you telling the story, I'm thinking about any situation that I may have encountered, right? I've seen both sides of the fence, right? I've seen the weird little, you know, you hit on her, and you don't really pay attention to it. It's like this. But then I also seen the flip side where they do go to it, and now you got the raise now. It's like, hey, I was in line for that. I've seen both sides of it, and it's really crazy. And I really thank you for your courageousness. This is just like something that needs to be talked about. Like, I'm surprised that it's not brought up more in Con. Because I don't know if you noticed, Cindy, I was working at Con. So I was there when Philip Thomas was CEO and all that. I remember all them days and stuff like that. Now we're gonna have Simon on soon. So this is something that we're gonna have to.
Well, I will send you. I've been speaking out about this at Cannes for years. You know, I proposed a code of conduct years ago. Nothing Cannes has done has been remotely effective. And by the way, I'll send you the report of what I proposed, the article covering it about that, because no, nothing's been effective. And I go back to my point, guys, about, you know, it needs to be a very open statement of, you know, we only want to see good sexual values and good sexual behavior. Anything else, you know, is absolutely not tolerated, because, you know, at Cannes there are a ton of men getting drunk who think it's absolutely fine to chat up, you know, the, you know, young, creative assistant who's there to, you know, absolutely fuck that shit. You know, women, you don't have to put up with this, and men step in there and break it up instantly.
Absolutely. And that's like that's the perfect place to be a predator.
It is.
Oh yeah.
Like when you think about it, right? You're there for networking. You're a young creative assistant, right? You're speaking to the VP. I'm just throwing a company out, Procter and Gamble, whoever it is, whatever brand it is, right? And you know that one relationship could do something. That's the big client. Now, what if he goes back to your boss and say, hey, I don't like her energy. You know what I mean? She said something really whack over there. You know what I mean? Now you're
exactly. And honestly, you know, I will also just say that, you know, you don't want to work in any place that will not take your word over his and does not immediately step in to help you. If they don't, then you absolutely want to get the fuck out and leave.
That's real, man.
She stands on principles. Cindy, me and my cousin have time and time again told stories about when we have been the tip of the spear. When we have said, it doesn't matter if I'm good. If my team isn't good, or if we see things going around us that just because you don't do something, like we have a saying in our neighborhood, like in the urban areas, is we call it sucker shit, right? just because you don't do sucker shit, if you condone sucker shit by watching somebody else do it, then you're just as liable. You understand what I'm saying? So me and my cousin have actively talked about, you know, being the ones that say, I don't care, because this has to stop. Because again, what happens, you know, when you go to work, one of the biggest things that they ask you to do when you leave work is leave work at work, right? You know that, right? Especially if you had a hard day, you go home to your family, Cindy. Your family, whatever your family looks like, right? You go home to your family. But in situations like that, how do you leave work at work? You're gonna bring that back home, that trauma, right? You're gonna bring that negative energy home. And now it affects your home life, your family. That could possibly not only destroy you at work, but destroy your family structure. It could destroy you as a person moving forward for the rest of your life, because now if something like that happens, like you said, it turns you into somebody completely different.
Yep. And can I just say, guys, that is already happening across our industry.
Yeah.
In all sorts of ways. So I have a personal coaching practice. I coach people. I coach women and men in our industry across all industries. But I coach so many brilliant women who have no idea how brilliant they are, because for their entire careers, they've been kept down by men, held back by men, sabotaged by men, had their career opportunities derailed by men. I was coaching an associate creative director, a woman, at an extremely well-known agency. And she was, this is years ago, but she'd bought a package of coaching sessions. So this was like our second or third session together. And so she came in and she sat down, New York based, and so I coach in person when they're in New York. And she went, and I said, so, you know, what do you want to talk about today? And she went, well, no. And I went, what is it? And she went, well, no. And I went, come on, spit it out. She went, well, the thing is, Cindy, this is going to sound really crazy. And then she kept going, no. I want to come on. She said, this sounds utterly ridiculous. And of course, this cannot be happening at all. And I sound mad just saying this out loud, but I've got this feeling that my boss is sabotaging me. And a boss, by the way, was well-known white guy in creative department. And so I went, you know, tell me why you think that. And on anecdote number 2, I went, he's sabotaging you. And he absolutely was. Okay. I mean, this guy was absolutely out to destroy her career.
Right.
And you know, that is why, again, I've been saying for years, there is only one thing holding women back in our industry, and it's insecure men.
What the f is wrong with this guy? Am I kidding me or what?
Guys are different.
Yeah.
That's, you know, get rid of that barrier and we have a transformed industry.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know, again, that point is intersectional. So years ago, Campaign magazine bought a series of posters along the Crozet in Cannes, asked a number of industry people to give them pieces of advice for the industry, which they then ran on these posters. And I was very happy to do that. I think I gave about 20 sound bites. Yep. You know, by the way, it was great placement, because the whole idea was industry leaders walk up and down the Crozet, you're going to see these. And so, you know, my advice was hire into equal power with you brilliant Black talent that you feel threatened by. Because that's the problem.
Message. Ooh. That's a powerful statement. I love you actually posted something today that I wanted you to touch on. You said the DEI, the acronym should be driving excessive income. Can you please talk to the people about that? Because there's a lot of changes, a lot of rollouts going on. A lot of people are nervous and would love you to drive that home.
Oh my God, guys. I mean, everything that is going on around us right now is just absolutely horrifying. And I've been posting on my social channels, you know, advice about how to manage our mental state, given the assault that we are all getting on the horrors that are unfolding as we speak. So obviously there's been this appalling backlash against DEI. And what I find really ironic is that, I mean, basically there is an assumption within the backlash that anybody who is not a white man, or maybe making allowances for a white woman, is just not good enough. And the irony is that, I mean, DEI is about meritocracy in the real sense of the word. But I've said for years that as far as I'm concerned, DEI stands for driving excessive income, because diversity drives better business. Diversity makes more money. Diversity sells more product. Diversity scales everything. Diversity drives an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money when you embrace it and integrate it into what you do. So yeah, take it from me, DEI stands for driving excessive income.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it is. I got a question for you, Cindy. Now, let's transfer this now. You have all the understanding and the knowledge of what goes on. You say, I'm done. I will no longer be a part of the cog, right? Part of the machine that is producing this type of an effect. Now you open up your own, right? You're a founder now. You open up your own. So my question is, now that you know what women go through, you know what kind of environments that they could possibly be put in, what do you do now when you're developing your own to put systems in place to make sure that that does not happen on your watch?
Sure. So first of all, obviously, it's very easy for me at Make Love Not Porn, my company, to build the team and the culture that I want to. Okay, so I have a tiny but mighty team. We are completely diverse, majority queer. We have 2 non-binary team members. And that is why when I and my team regrouped on Tuesday, post-inauguration day, we have a weekly Make Love Not Porn team meeting every Tuesday morning. I said to them, everything we do at this company is an act of resistance, which it absolutely is. We at Make Love Not Porn, we change people's sexual attitudes and behavior for the better. We give women sexual agency. We show men the way to the love, intimacy, connection they want. We are on a mission to help end rape culture globally. But here's the very important thing about, I mean, the culture. I absolutely, I'm about communication through demonstration. Don't say it, be it, do it, show it. But this is the really key thing that is missing in our industry, especially one very notable example right now. So for years I've said, there is a formula for business success. There absolutely is. There is a formula you can apply and you'll be successful, guaranteed. It's a very simple formula, and it goes like this. If you seek out, hire, and retain the very best talent in the marketplace, if you then give that talent a really inspirational vision of what you want them to achieve for you and your business, if you then stand right back and enable that talent to achieve those goals using their own individual skills and creativity in any way they choose, if at the same time you make it really clear to that talent how much you value them, not just financially compensation-wise, but verbally, vocally, every single day, and if you enable that talent to share in the profit of what they make happen, you'll be successful. It is that simple, and virtually nobody does it because what that formula requires is a high trust working environment. And pretty much every working environment is low trust because the very nature of the corporate hierarchy and the way it's structured is predicated on the idea that the person at the top does not trust the people just below them, who in turn do not trust people just below them, and it's one big cascade of low trust all the way to the bottom like a champagne fountain. The single most important foundation stone for any successful company culture is trust. And I will just say that you are not demonstrating trust when you insist that every employee come back to the office 4 days a week.
You on mute, Cuzzo?
No, I said that's real. Yeah,
Yeah.
you be having on it. It's the accent is everything, Cindy. You got me on the edge of my goddamn seat. Everything you said, I was like a cliffhanger. I'm just like, yo, I love it.
So basically, by the way, all of that was to say, I
Yeah.
trust my team at Make Love Not Porn completely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that if I were run over by a bus tomorrow, they could carry on running the company exactly the way that I would want it to be run. And you know, that really, really matters, as I said, in any company culture. Trust.
Yeah, but go ahead, cousin.
I was gonna ask you, what is
Yeah.
the biggest business challenge, right, for your business, right? So Make Love Not Porn, right? So you want to end rape culture. You're trying to like basically educate the masses, right, on safe sex practices and what we can be doing to, you know, to be safe all around, right? What is the biggest challenge with that? Would you say for your audience? It's just the educating the users? Is it getting the users?
No, not at all. My biggest challenge is lack of access to funding.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm very glad you asked that question because, and I'll explain that in more detail in a moment. But listeners, if you appreciate everything I've said tonight, I would love you to support my work by going to wefunder.com/makelovenotporn and investing in Make Love Not Porn. And by the way, the minimum investment is just $100. So it's hopefully affordable for a number of you. But I need all of you who believe in what I'm doing to fund me, because here's my challenge: finding investors. You know, and this is a challenge I've faced for the past 16 years. We've had a universally positive response to Make Love Not Porn. Everybody loves what we're doing. Everybody loves what we're building right now, which is the 0 to 18 and beyond sex education expansion, MakeLoveNotPorn.academy. But my challenge raising funding is, I know that my investors are out there, and there are a ton of them, okay? They are impossible for me to find by conventional means because they all have one thing in common. Your willingness to fund Make Love Not Porn as an investor is entirely a function of your personal sexual journey. It's a function of your personal lens on sex and sexuality that's been shaped by your own experience of it. And I obviously have no way to research and target for that. Especially as sex is the area where you cannot tell from the outside what anybody thinks on the inside. The people who look like they would totally get it don't. The people who look like complete prudes do. And so I have to put what I'm doing out there all the time to try and make synaptic connections that will attract those investors to me. And, you know, the challenge is, if your personal sexual journey was positive, you really get it, okay? But if your personal sexual journey was negative, no rational argument by me on how big Make Love Not Porn could become will ever overcome that.
One hell of a challenge. Shit. That's one. And on top of the fact that, you know, especially in the industry, women don't get a lot of investment anyway. And when you add in to black women, that's a 0.0 point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do you scale it? But I find that because that's the same problem we have, right? I'm pretty sure somebody like you, Cindy, who've done and accomplished everything you have relationships out the wazoo and people they can't help, which brings me back to the question earlier of, is all the things you're doing and the courageousness kind of having a black ball effect that investors are like, hey, I'm not doing that.
Is she dangerous for our brand?
Exactly. Like, this is a great thing.
No, do you know, Jarrett, it really isn't, because so you know, the reason I would love you all to help crowdfund Make Love Not Porn is because since we launched this campaign, I've been very struck by the fact that in my network, I have a lot of friends with a lot of money who could very easily afford to invest, you know. And by the way, there are lovely people, strangers, who believe in what I'm doing, who invested $10,000, you know, $5,000. And by the way, these are also friends whom I have promoted, championed, supported, helped over the years, that I really thought when their turn came to reciprocate, they would. Okay. And I've been amazed how many haven't. Now, I have had a few conversations with very dear, very old friends who've been willing to be honest with me. And, you know, what this boils down to is people are funny about sex. So these very dear, very long-standing friends, whom I consider very good friends, by the way, have been good enough friends to say to me that they just don't feel comfortable contributing to anything to do with sex, even when it's me, and even when it's for a venture designed to help end rape culture. Now, fortunately, there is a solution to this, which I made them aware of, which is that, you know, what you can do with our WeFunder is that you can send a message with your investment where you say, I only want this to go to Make Love Not Porn Academy, which is the sex education platform that we're building, which is purely for educational material, you know. And in this case, these friends were actually happy to do that, you know, for their investment. As long as I could say to them, it's not going to Make Love Not Porn the core business, you know, it's going to the educational component, the kids, schools, etc. They were fine, but you know, that really demonstrated to me, you know, that fundamental point that, as I said, people are funny about sex. That's the issue.
That is true.
I just feel like the reason that people are funny about sex,
echo.
Are we echoing?
Well,
let me see here.
Let me say it again.
Are we echoing?
Oh no.
Okay.
You're good now.
Okay. I feel like the reason that some people are funny about it, Cindy, is because it's not really talked about. You see what I'm saying? It's not something that is instilled within your educational progress when you become of a sexual maturity age, right? I'm not saying teach it in elementary school, but in the junior high school, going towards high school level. So Cindy, when we were in school, we actually had a class called sexual education, right? It was a class. It was actually mandatory that you took this class, right? Men and women, right? To teach you things about sexual orientation and things of that nature. I don't understand how something that is so simplistic that technically we need for the survival of our race is so taboo. You understand what I'm saying? You can teach about everything else. They're teaching about everything else, right?
Exactly. And by the way, this is our entire mission at Make Love Not Porn.
Right.
You know, we want to make it easy for everyone in the world to talk openly and honestly about sex. Okay. And that's why we're spearheading what we call the social sex revolution.
Okay.
The revolution part is not the sex. It's the fact we're finally making it social, normalizing, destigmatizing, bringing it out of the shadows into the sunlight. And I do want to share with you that, you know, the purpose of MakeLoveNotPorn.academy, and by the way, everyone listening, if you go to that URL, MakeLoveNotPorn.academy, you'll see our vision laid out there. The purpose is absolutely to provide tools and content to begin educating about sex as early as possible. Because parents have been writing to me for 16 years at Make Love Not Porn. And so I want to share with you and our audience the two pieces of advice that I've had to give to parents over the years. And actually, I can't wait to launch the Academy because I'm going to video my own mini masterclass where I can then share, you know, my advice, and it's accessible to everyone. But I do want everybody, especially those of you listening who may be parents of young children, to hear this. So two key things. The first is today, you cannot begin talking to your child about sex too early. And what I mean when I say that is not like talk about sex. What I mean is the very first time your child asks where babies come from, plays with their genitals, the most important thing isn't even what you say as much as how you say it. Never, ever get visibly flustered. Okay? Never get embarrassed. Never kind of shut them up, you know, change the conversation topic, you know, leave the room. Instead, answer them calmly, straightforwardly, honestly, because the moment you do that, you are opening up a channel of communication between you and them that will be there for them around this topic for the rest of their lives.
Message.
The one thing parents want more than anything else is for their child to be happy. This area will impact your child's happiness more than almost anything else. And then what I say to parents is, the second piece of advice is, today, when you talk to your child about sex, no matter how early, you must also at the same time talk to your child about porn. Because the average age today which a child first stumbles across porn online is 6 years old. Okay? Now, This is a lot easier to do than most parents think, because all you have to do is say a version of what I'm about to share with you, and you dial it up or down depending on the age of the child. So what you say is, you go, so darling, we've just talked about sex. And you know how together we watch movies and videos and cartoons where things happen that aren't real. Well, there are also movies and videos about sex, and they're not real either. And because of that, they can be quite confusing. And so we'd rather you did not watch until you're older. But if anybody ever shows you anything like that, or you come across anything like that, come and talk to us, come and talk to me, I can explain it. That's all you have to say. You can end that conversation right there, because just by saying that, you've done two very important things. The first is you've set up in your child's mind, when they stumble across porn, as they will, it's not real. And the second thing you've said is, come and talk to me about it. You'll want them to do that because what they stumble across is likely to be utterly traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got me thinking about it. When you said 6, I'm thinking about Case. I'm like, he's on his iPad right now watching some shit. But then I'm thinking about it. We did the same shit back in the day with the box. Chad, I know you had the box. We used to go back to
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Channel.
I stumbled onto porn by accident. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I don't know. I was very young, but I was at my cousin's house or something, and remember porn used to be on the VHS tapes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be wanting to watch something, and I threw it on. It was like, oh
damn.
What is that?
I mean, soon after I launched Make Love Not Porn, I got a message on Facebook from a father. It's a complete stranger. The message was headed, "My wife and I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing."
Right.
This father said, he said, "We have a 10-year-old son, and we decided it was time to have the sex talk." So I sat down with him, and he said to me, "Daddy, why do men wear masks when they're having sex?" And this father wrote in this message, he said, "We have parental controls on our iPad.
Right.
And my 10-year-old son has somehow managed to find his way to a site where men wear masks when they're having sex." He said, "We hated it. We are sending him to your website."
Right. That's crazy.
By the way, parents are buying their teenagers subscriptions to Make Love Not Porn because they tell us, I quote, "I want my kids to see what happy, healthy, loving sex actually look like."
We got some comments on Instagram. We can't keep up with them all. We're sorry. We're getting so many comments, Cindy. One of the comments they were asking was, let me read it here. It says, are other countries that are is this only happening primarily in America? Because we know that the culture of education is different in other countries. So they're asking, like, are there other countries out there that are more susceptible to adapting this open line of communication towards sex?
Unfortunately not. So Make Love Not Porn is a global platform.
Right.
We have members and traffic from over 200 countries and territories.
Wow.
I travel the world speaking. I've been talking about this for 16 years. And I can tell you, this is a global issue. Right. Even in the countries that people tend to think are more like Scandinavia. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have sex education in schools, but all the kids are watching porn online as well. And what you learn from that takes precedence over what you're being taught in the classroom. That's why, as I mentioned, parents are buying their kids subscriptions to Make Love Not Porn. In the past year, we're getting more and more of those messages, and they're getting more and more desperate. So, a couple months ago, a mother wrote to us, and she said, "I've just discovered my 13-year-old son is watching Pornhub. I'd much rather he watched Make Love Not Porn instead. I know he's underage. Can we work something out?" Right. And by the way, at Make Love Not Porn, we are more legal than legal. We're for 18 and over. But our policy is that parental judgment trumps that. Okay, a parent knows what their kid needs. And so we said, absolutely. And that mother has now bought her 13-year-old son a subscription to Make Love Not Porn because he's watching horrific stuff anyway. Right. And, I'm hoping very much that will, really, really help.
Is there a pathway to you maybe even partnering with some of those places like Pornhub to provide the education? So if somebody kids does stumble upon, like, has that crossed your mind, or is there any?
So this is why we are building and launching MakeLoveNotPorn.academy. Yeah. So this is a product I've had in the pipeline for 10 years, but I've never been able to launch it because no investors would fund it, even though it's education.
Mm.
And so the great thing is that now that we have this equity crowdfunding campaign, we're finally able, with the funds we've raised to date, to build it. MakeLoveNotPorn.academy, we are building on the same principles as Make Love Not Porn, user-generated, crowdsourced, curated revenue share. So I'm not about reinventing the wheel. This is an aggregation play.
Right.
We are building the go-to global hub for the best of the world's sex education content.
Gotcha.
Because in 16 years of Make Love Not Porn, I built up a huge network of brilliant sex educator friends all around the world who face all the same challenges I do. Their content gets blocked on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Their accounts get suspended.
Wow.
You know, they're banned from advertising. Open, healthy sex ed is being blocked, censored, and deplatformed everywhere as we speak. And post-election, that's about to get a whole lot worse.
Right.
And so I said to my team, our mission at Make Love Not Porn Academy is to help organize the world's sex education content and sex education information. That is a deliberate paraphrase of Google's original mission statement, which was to help organize the world's information, because they're not. The algorithm's biased.
Right.
You look for this, you can't find it. And so the Academy will be the Google of sex education. We're bringing together all the amazing work that already exists out there and making it freely accessible, searchable by age appropriateness, cultural sensibility. You know, we have Christian sex ed, Jewish sex ed, Muslim sex ed, and importantly, searchable by personal comfort level. You can pick and choose from this, you know, one-stop shop in terms of what's right for your family, your school, your classroom. So when we can hit our funding goal on WeFunder, you know, we're going to be able to launch this later on this year. And that's why I would love the support of everyone listening.
And Cindy, please, because while we close out, could you please put it in the group chat for us? So we're gonna have everything. All the links will be in the YouTube descriptions, as well as all of the link in the bios, y'all. So if you want to support Cindy, we are gonna put it on top of all the clips. Please check out her foundation, check out the Academy, support if you can. This is something that needs to be talked about, that needs to be supported. This is something that needs to happen in the marketplace. Nothing like it on the marketplace. We need this for our children. We need it for the future.
I just got another question for you, Cindy.
Sure. By the way, can I just say, I've been trying to connect to the chat, but for some reason I can't. So I can't drop anything in it.
Check the where I put the 100 when we was offline. When I put 100 every 80 episodes, put it there.
Oh right, okay, I will do. Terrific, great.
Yeah, anything else will go to the live show.
Great.
I just wanted to know if you incorporated into your strategies when you're looking for funding and you're going and you're pitching to these people. Actual case studies, right? Case studies that show.
No, absolutely, because you know, in 12 years of operating Make Love Not Porn, you know, we have demonstrated, we have proof of concept that we have unique capability. We have the power to change people's sexual attitudes and behavior for the better in a way that nothing else can. And so we have countless case studies where we've taught numerous young people that porn is not sex in the real world. Gen Z loves us. You know, we have saved numerous marriages and relationships. That's literally how people write to us, you saved my marriage. You know, we inspired communications breakthroughs amongst couples. Right. You know, as I said, you know, parents are absolutely using us as sex education through real world demonstration. And here's what's really interesting, guys. As with any disruptive technology, use cases emerge the founder never dreamt of. So I was blown away when we began first hearing, as we do regularly, from survivors of rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse. We hear from female survivors, male survivors, trans non-binary survivors. They tell us that Make Love Not Porn helped them reclaim their bodies. We help them feel able to be sexual again post-trauma in a situation where porn is too triggering. And it's not just people who watch our videos. We have a number of contributors whom we call Make Love Not Porn stars, who tell us being able to share themselves sexually in a completely safe and trustworthy space has helped them process and heal from sexual trauma. That is not a use case I ever envisaged when I came up with this idea. I'm so happy it is. And I do want to share.
No, I think it was me.
Yeah, sorry. I want to share one final fact about Make Love Not Porn with you, which I think our audience may find interesting. So I designed Make Love Not Porn to be fully diverse and inclusive, and we are. You know, our members, our Make Love Not Porn stars, are all ages 18 to 80, all races, ethnicities, male, female, trans, non-binary, straight, LGBTQ, asexual. But in the 12 years we've operated, we've discovered that Make Love Not Porn is especially a revelation to men. More men send us grateful emails, leave appreciative comments than anybody else, because we are something utterly unique that men will find nowhere else on the internet, which is a safe space where men can be and watch other men being open, emotional, and vulnerable around sex. You would not believe the number of men who write to us and say, I just watched my first video on Make Love Not Porn, and afterwards I cried. I've said for years, I wish society understood the opposite of what it thinks is true. Women enjoy sex just as much as men, and men are just as romantic as women. Yet neither gender is allowed to openly celebrate either fact. We'd all be so much better off if they were. I picked up a wonderful Twitter exchange a little while back between two men. The first man tweeted, as a joke, obviously, hey guys, got this really weird fetish. I've got this kink where I want to watch porn where people are honest, loving, loyal, decent, and really like each other. Get me up with your honest links, please. And another man replied and said, there's this website called Make Love Not Porn. We can watch real couples fucking and making love. He said, I watched a video where the woman said to her man, I love you, while they're making love. He said, he cried when I heard that. Make Love Not Porn is one of the solutions to toxic masculinity. We are the antithesis of Andrew Tate.
And listen, man, it's okay. Like, I know as men, and I'm gonna say it myself, we have a very big problem, especially with expressing emotion, right? It is a male thing. It's a male thing. We can express certain emotions very quickly, anger and frustration and stuff, right? But when it comes to the more sensitive side, or when it comes to expressing your emotional side, we tend to, you understand, stray away from that, especially if you've had a rough upbringing or you've been through something traumatic and you put that wall up, right, for protection. But I would urge you guys to look within yourself, and if you don't like what you're going through, seek some type of help, right? Like Cindy's site or any other site that you feel like can help you, get through what you're going through, because you cannot get better without getting past, dealing with what you went through and getting past it. If you continually hold it in and hold it in and hold it in, you're only going to deteriorate and make your situation worse. You'll never heal.
Yeah, that's real.
I love it.
This was such a great conversation, Cindy.
And I didn't even think it was going to go this way. I mean,
I thought we was going to talk about the industry. I'm like, we're going to kill the industry. I'm like, Cindy, I had so many marketing questions.
Right. But you got to save that for part two. Like,
part two. First, a year in New York, so we got to do a part two, Cindy, soon.
Yeah.
But just thank you again. Thank you for joining the platform. This was a great, this is a classic episode.
Yeah.
Classic episode.
And it's one of the first of its kind, just so you know, Cindy. We've never really touched on this topic in depth the way we did today. So this, I want to congratulate you on being, out of 170 something episodes, the first of this type of powerful topic discussion and bringing it to the forefront.
But also, thank you for showing up for equality.
Yeah.
Like you showed up for Black Week inaugural year. You showed up and showed out. We
Yes.
couldn't see the one where we couldn't see your Jonathan Mendenhall. So for those listening, we're in the back room. Cindy's in the green room. We're doing interviews while Cindy's there. I'm telling Cuzzo, I'm like, Cuzzo, that's Cindy Gallop. He's like, I don't LinkedIn like that.
We got it.
There we are.
Right here.
I'm like, bro, that's Cindy. That's the right name.
Yeah.
And then we took the picture.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta get you on, but from everybody, from the Black Week staff to the team, people are there, they say nothing but great things about you. So thank you for just championing change, like straight up and down. And we need more people like you. You're part of the More Than a Title family now. We're honored for that. And so if you could too, Cindy, just put your number. We usually start a group chat with all our guests. So what we're gonna do is gonna try to connect. If there's anybody we've spoken to before or in the future, you have direct access to them. There's no gatekeeping here. So any way we can help you, we are here. If you have an event, you want us to bring the camera by and just let us know. We'll be happy to support.
Terrific.
Or even if you just want us to come and just show support, we do that too, right? We show up a lot of times just to show support because, once again, we believe in the message, and even if at the time we can't contribute a great deal financially, by us supporting the message and sharing the message on our platform, we can get it out to people that might be able to help out, right?
I enormously appreciate that. This has been a fabulous conversation, guys. I've hugely enjoyed it. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for being a part of this. It's been absolutely terrific.
Before you leave, Cindy, and I guarantee you, so I'm just saying it's a guarantee.
People are going to hit you up.
People are going to hit you up. So people are going to wonder how to get in contact with you. What's the best place to reach out to you? Can you let the people know what's the easiest way to get in contact with you?
Sure. So basically, you can follow me on Instagram at Cindy Gallop at MakeLoveNotPorn. I'm also still on Twitter /X at Cindy Gallop at MakeLoveNotPorn. My favorite social platform is LinkedIn. And by the way, if you had told me 10 years ago that one day I would say I'm all about LinkedIn, I would have laughed in your face. But I'm all about LinkedIn. So do follow and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook as well, but and you know, I have a TikTok, but I think I've been shadow banned for talking about it. So it may be hard to find me. So I would say LinkedIn is the best place to follow me and also see what I post, by the way, which you may find useful in terms of advice and stuff like that.
And remember, ladies and gentlemen, like we said, these guests are giving you ways to contact them. They're giving you ways to reach out and get resources. Please be respectful of their time. Understand that they're running businesses and organizations, right? You can reach out. She gave you the information, but just remember, it only takes one to ruin the situation where, once again, right, you make somebody feel like maybe I shouldn't do this. So please reach out respectfully. If you're looking for resources and stuff, she's obviously the organization has that, and go about it. And once again, ending off the show, I told you at the beginning of the show. I told you at the beginning of the show that this was gonna be another phenomenal show. Cindy Gallop came on the show and she was transparent, fully transparent. She told you her journey. Right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. She showed you strength. She showed you weakness, right? And she showed you that, listen, I'm up here now, but I took positions here and I switched and I wasn't afraid to change, which reiterates what we say every single episode. The dream is free.
But the hustle is sold separately, y'all. We're going to see y'all on Tuesday, man. We love you. Thank you, Cindy.
What you know about me? Seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? I done it all, just want it all. Oh, what you know about me?